Thanks for tuning in to Let's Address This with Qasim Rashid. I'm excited about our guest today. Mai Vang is running for Congress in California. We'll talk a bit more about that race in a minute, but just make sure you hit that subscribe button. My mission at this point is to elevate those thoughtful community organizers and leaders who are taking on the establishment, who are sick of the status quo, rejecting corrupt corporate money, APAC money, and leading by example of how it's done. You guys hear me rail against the establishment all the time, and I'm trying to use my platform to lift them up. So make sure you hit that subscribe button so we can continue to have these conversations. Maya, thank you for being with us today.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. Hi, everyone. Happy Tuesday to all of y'all. Do we just jump right in?
We should jump right in. I always start with kind of the important question to kick off these conversations is what's your superhero origin story? What was the moment where you were like, this is crap, this sucks, we need better, and I'm gonna be the one who runs to make it better? What was that moment that made you decide to do that?
The moment that made me decide to do that was when I was at a school board meeting as a community organizer. It was 1 o'clock in the morning. Kids were sleeping on the floor, and we were trying to save our neighborhood schools in the low income areas. And we lost by one vote. And that night was the night that, while we felt defeated in that moment, was really the beginning of our political awakening and recognizing that so often there are electeds that make decisions for us, but it's never by us. And so that was the moment that we decided that we were going to run candidates. And that's when our communities looked at me. We were trying to get parents to run. And that was when I stepped in and say, hey, I think we're going to do this and we're going to run together as a community.
I love that. It's authentic and it speaks to your work as an organizer. And I think talk about that too, because I want folks to understand that you're coming at this not from an ego or a vanity project, but you've been an organizer on the ground for a long, long time. Talk a bit about that history.
Yeah. So, for those that are meeting me for the first time, my name is Mai Vang. I was born and raised right here in South Sacramento. I am a daughter of Hmong refugees, the eldest of 16 children in my family. And for those that may not know about the Hmong people, I like just to share a little bit of history because it really informs the ways in which I see the world. And for those that may not know about the Hmong people, during the Vietnam War, obviously a war that we should have not engaged in, the United States, the CIA, recruited the Hmong people to fight in the secret war of Laos. They recruited 10-year-old boys and up to fight in the secret war of Laos. And as you know, our history, we lost the Vietnam War. The United States withdrew their troop, and there was a complete genocide of our people. Over 30, 40,000 Hmong soldiers and villagers died. My parents were the villagers and they fled. And a big part of that is because we had allied with the United States, and anyone that allied with the United States, it was complete. A complete genocide of our people. And so my parents fled the war, was in the jungle for 6 months, crossed the Mekong River, made it to Thailand to seek refuge. And then they came here to the United States. And I was born here in Sacramento, California, along with my 15 brothers and sisters. And I often share the story that my story is not so different from other children of immigrants or refugees. I grew up on Medicaid. I grew up on food stamps. And so I really understand the importance of safety net programs. And when you have good government working for the people, the incredible things that can happen, the potential that you can tap for our residents to make sure that they can thrive. So I grew up here, and then I was the first in my family to go to college. And what I will share with all of you is that the reason why I went to college wasn't to get a college degree, but because I had a great high school teacher that told me that if I went to college, it could be my one ticket out of poverty. So I remember growing up in South Sac, I was that good obedient Hmong daughter, cooked and cleaned for my siblings, but really internalized poverty when I was young. A big part of that was because I didn't know my own history until I went to college. And so I went to college to try to leave Sacramento and escape poverty. But what I will share with you is that I came back because of poverty. When I went to college was the first time I learned about my own people in a sociology class at the university. And I went home that night and called my father, and asked him, and I'm translating from Hmong to English. I asked him if he knew about the war, and I asked him why he never told me. And his response was, well, because you never ask. I think my dad was just trying to be a little silly, but I think for him, it was a way to not talk about the war growing up. And I think he wanted us to focus and do good in school. And so that was the beginning of my political awakening in college. I was really frustrated and angry at the system, and, frustrated the fact that our K to 12 education didn't teach us about our own history. became an organizer in college. I went to UCLA for grad school, got my master's in Asian American Studies and public health policy. And then that was when, after I graduated, I got a call from my parents saying they needed help at home. So I thought to myself, what good is it if I have two masters from UCLA, but my family and my community is still struggling? So I came back home to Sacramento to help mom and dad. And then I looked around the neighborhoods that I grew up with and realized that not a lot had changed. And when I was an organizer at UCLA for APALA, the Asian Pacific American Labor Alliance, I really got the skills to register voters and train people. And I realized we need to start organizing people in South Sacramento. And that was when I started an organization called HIP, Hmong Innovating Politics, to really engage our community in the political process. And that was when, because you had asked about my origin story, there was massive school closures in low income neighborhoods, and many of our Hmong parents reached out to HIP, the organization that I was working for as an organizer, and said, "What do we do?" And we asked them, "Do you know who your electeds are?" And many of the parents said no. And that was when we started organizing. And so I came back as an organizer and yeah, fought the school closures. We were able to save some school. Then I ran for school board in 2016 under the first Trump administration. Uh huh.
So I was
And
gonna say, just for the record, that is the superhero origin story answer that I was looking for.
oh, really? Oh,
That's
okay.
the
Yeah.
one. That's the
That's
one.
the
This is
one. Yeah.
it's deep, it's raw, it's generations, right? And I look, as a father myself, obviously your father's experience is extremely traumatic. I see my very young children, and we grew up low income on in Section 8 on food stamps, and that's it's traumatic, and that's something I don't necessarily share with them at a very young age. I have an older one who's almost in college, but the younger ones, I try to because as a parent, you want to protect your children. So I in a way, I empathize with your father of just trying to protect you and letting you be in your bubble for as long as possible. Because I think he knew a moment's going to come where you're going to learn about this anyway. And so
Mhm.
just raise you as best as you could and hope that when you are ready to learn about it, you take that, you channel that rage into something more powerful. And you're clearly doing that, which is amazing. The question that I know folks are going to be asking me is given this history that you have, how do you address what the US foreign policy is right now in Gaza, in Iran, bombing Syria, enabling the bombing of Lebanon? How do you approach these issues compared to your opponent that you're running against?
Absolutely. As a daughter of Hmong refugees, like, I know the pain and harm that war causes, the displacement and the generational impacts that families have to live through, right? This is why I am your anti-war candidate, because we should be investing money in our communities right here at home and not supporting endless wars. I also want to say that, I am the candidate in this race that has named what has happened in Gaza genocide. There are Palestinians right here in our Sacramento region that have lost entire generations of their family because of this genocide. And my opponent, Doris Matsui, who's been in office for over 20 years, she takes APAC money and she has consistently actually voted for more of our tax dollars to buy weapons for Israel. And so that
Indefensible.
is a position that, yeah, that's a position that I do not take. I don't take any corporate PAC money. I would sign on to legislation right now to ban bombs on day one. She hasn't. HR 3565, for example. And so for me, this is personal because I'm a daughter of refugees and I understand the generational trauma and us into these endless wars, right? And they often say we don't got money for healthcare and education and housing, but we sure got money for war.
Yeah.
And this is really about our priorities in terms of our budget.
And it's enraging, it's immoral. I mean, childhood poverty has tripled to 13% last year, and we are now spending $25 billion in this last
Well,
month or whatever, 3 weeks on this horrific war, and with no end in sight. Now, Trump is considering a ground invasion to get their uranium as if this is gonna be some small, tiny little operation. And you mentioned healthcare because now when we're spending money there, people need to understand, I don't care if you're a right-wing MAGA, you need to understand that spending billions on a war we don't need prevents us from getting the things we actually need, like healthcare. In the Democratic Party right now, there is still a strong push for corporate, insurance-based healthcare as opposed to the guarantee of healthcare as a human right. Where are you on this really important issue?
yeah, before I even announced my candidacy for Congress as a community organizer, here I have always been a supporter for Medicare for all. I'm a big believer that healthcare is a fundamental right. If you don't got your health, you can't do anything else. And we also know when we talk about affordability, right? It's a huge contributor to why families are struggling because they can't access healthcare. Doris, my opponent, is actually opposed to Medicare for all. She also takes money from profit insurance companies, big
Of course she does.
pharma,
Yep.
United Healthcare, who actually profit from the pain and suffering of our communities. And so when that happens, there's not like a sense of urgency from established Democrats, right? Sometimes something I will share with you is she's been in office for over 20 years. She held a town hall for the very first time in the fall because we were in the race and someone had asked her, you take money from APEC and corporations. And she said, I don't look at who gives me money. That was her response. I don't really care who gives me
Absurd.
money. I'll take money from anyone. But it's like, we know, I think about it like this. You are using a corporate credit card to finance your campaign.
Yep.
When you're using a corporate credit card to finance your campaign, that means you got debt. You got debt to pay.
Hmm.
And you're not going to have the urgency to move on issues like Medicare for all. You're not going to have the urgency, or you're not even going to be bold and courageous to take a position like abolishing ICE. She has not called for the abolishment of ICE. Another reason why is because she takes money from ICE contractors, corporations that have huge contracts
And,
with.
and just to be sure, you're running against a Democrat, not a Republican, right?
I am running against a Democrat. Her, in Congressional District 7, she's been in the seat for 20 years. But prior to that, her husband, Matsui was in that seat. Combine both of them together, they've been in office for almost half a century.
It's a
7
dynasty. Yeah, it's a family
Yeah.
dynasty. This is the one thing that frustrates me about the establishment here. We go out and we hold these signs that say "No kings" and we need democracy and we need the will of the people. But then you have individual family dynasties for half a century as if that's normal. It's not. It's indefensible. And the reason, and I mean, I knew for our viewers, I knew that Maya's running against a Democrat, but I wanted to be sure our viewers knew because the way you're describing her, those policies, the way you're accurately describing her, those policies are indistinguishable from a MAGA Republican. Opposing healthcare as a human right, continuing to fund genocide, continuing to arm a war criminal, refusing to recognize that the moment calls for divesting from corporate money and having a
Mhm.
people-funded campaign. You've won some really powerful endorsements. Can you talk a little bit about who's backing your campaign right now?
So, yes, I'm endorsed by Justice Democrats. And so, really proud to be endorsed by them. As y'all know, they are the organization that recruited AOC to run, Cori Bush, the squad. And so, that's been really great. I'm endorsed by the California Working Families Party.
Amazing.
Um, yeah, our nurses, National Nurses United, that's been on the front line fighting for Medicare for all. I'm endorsed by the United Auto Workers as well. I'm endorsed by Track APEC. I'm endorsed by ACE. They're big on tenant protections. I'm endorsed by, well, for the first time in history, we got the dual endorsement of the California Labor Federation. In 20 years, she's always received the sole endorsement. And this year, they did a dual endorsement.
Amazing.
The local labor endorsed us as a sole endorsement, but when it got to the state, they swapped it as a sole endorsement for her. And then when it got to the floor, a lot of unions spoke up on the floor and they gave us a dual endorsement. So that's really great. A lot of great organizations, but really the endorsement that matters most for me is the people on the ground. I with you, we just did a bit of polling and the numbers look really, really good. I'll share some of the polling results because I think
I,
that's
I'm gonna, I
really
I want you to share the polling results in 1 second. We have a question from the audience. We have about
yeah.
300 people watching right now.
Everyone.
One person said that their single question right now is if you're elected to the House, will you support Hakeem Jeffries for Speaker or will you call for a new Speaker?
I would call for a new speaker. Why am I running? I mean, the whole point, you're both Dems. What's the difference between you two, right? What we don't need is to send another blue Dem in there just to fold to the system that we have right now. I am not a stranger taking on the establishment. I'm the progressive on the city council. And it is no secret that when we announced our campaign, that the three mayors of the largest city in our congressional district threw their support behind the incumbent because the establishment is afraid. And it's also the unspoken thing in the Sacramento region. It's like the unspoken rule that you don't do what Mai Vang just did. You don't take on an entrenched incumbent that's been in office for like 47 years. You just don't do that,
Yep.
right? And there's this thing like you wait till your term. But to be honest with y'all, like I wasn't even thinking about running for Congress. It wasn't even in the plan. Like we were having this conversation on March 31st in 2025. Because you told me that, hey Ma, you're running for Congress. I'll look at you and be like, you're crazy. Like, how am I gonna take on an entrenched incumbent? There's no way. right? But it was like an accumulation of events and conversation and the lack of fight and representation and urgency and bold and courageous position that got me to the moment that says, like, if not us, then who? Who's gonna
Yeah.
step up,
Yeah.
right?
Exactly. If we can't fight now, then
Yeah.
there's not much left to fight for. And
Yeah.
this is where I get frustrated when people say, well, the person in office has years of experience, this new person is new. And what I point out to them is that if those years of experience were worth a damn, we wouldn't be on the final cusp of falling into permanent fascism right now.
A
And
hun
it's the
100%.
definition of insanity to do the same thing over and over again and expect a different result. And the fact that even to this day, I mean, Hakeem Jeffries was on an interview yesterday talking about how we lost the 2024 election because we weren't tough enough on the border and we didn't demonize immigrants enough. And I'm like, you're using right wing talking points and it's insufferable because, for God's sake, you are supposed to be the leader of the Democratic Party, not the leader of the Republican Party. So why don't you actually listen to what our base wants? And so, as you're campaigning here, Mai, what are some of the, I would say, maybe the top two or three issues you're hearing from voters that is motivating them to either vote or not vote? Like, what are the big issues they're focused on right now?
Well, I mean, every day I feel like we're doom scrolling. So as I'm on the campaign trail, when it's something else from Trump, then that becomes like, right? So when we're knocking on doors right now, it's like, are you anti-war? Right? Like that's like the big thing right now is
Yeah.
around like, right? What is your position on Gaza? What is your position on the war that's happening in Iran? Because it's affecting like our lives, affordability, gas prices, all of these things, right? And so that is like on the forefront of so many of our families. And I would say it wouldn't matter if you're a Democrat or Republican in Congressional District 7. I think everyone's feeling in this moment. There is a sentiment in CD7 right now that doesn't matter if you're a Democrat or Republican, right? We know that establishment Democrats and Republicans are bought out by corporations. And so we need bold and courageous leaders in this moment. So that's where we're hearing out in the field is like, what are you willing to do? Like, are you going to fight for us? Do you take any corporate PAC money? And the answer is no. And so, yeah, we're in this fight and we're not just running to run, like we're running to win. As I shared with you, we just got some poll results and
Yeah. Let's talk about that.
yeah,
How are
let's
we
talk
looking in the
about that.
polls?
Yeah, so
Yeah.
the polls are good. This is actually the first time that we're publicly kind of sharing it. I didn't run it through my team, but I'm gonna share it here. So, because I'm sure our opponent's jumping on to watch. So let me just tell you how it is. So basically, my numbers. So first, when you introduce me right next to Doris Matsui, just our name, and this is assuming that people already know about who she is, the work that she's done in the district, securing money for infrastructure. If you just put my name next to her, I trail her by 7 points. Okay,
Wow.
that's actually not bad. I thought we
That's
was gonna be.
fantastic.
I know that I thought we was gonna be in the double digits behind
No,
for
that's
the
just outside the
institution.
margin of error.
Yeah, yes, yes, yes. And the margin of error was like plus minus 4. If you introduce my name and my title and a short bio, we move up 5 points. So we trail her behind like 2 points. If you let the voters know, the same voters know about my position on war and Gaza and Medicare for all, we are ahead by 30 points.
Amazing.
And, like, I was
Amazing.
talking to the pollster and I was like, "Can you go back and run those numbers? Because I'm not sure if you got that right." And they were saying, "No, we've done other polls, like, for insurgent candidates against entrenched incumbent. We've never seen something like this." One, I think it's because maybe we've been doing some good
Sure.
ground game, but the other piece is that this region is really ready for change. Even those who are loyal to, my opponent or have always voted because there's never been another option. They are hungry for another alternative on the ballot. The question is, can we raise the money to saturate the universe? And so that is the question, like, because we are going up against APEC, corporate PAC money. It is completely grassroots. And so if we get our message, we are ahead. And I think they know that. That's the reason why they're scared. And so this is also my ask to all of you. Like today is March 31st. Like before I jumped on, I was like on call time, y'all. If y'all can pitch in like any amount, like $1, $5, $25, anything you can, it would really help us end our reporting deadline strong. This is like one of the last reporting deadline before the June 2nd primary. And many of you know that like the national news organizations, they look at those numbers to see if, like, is this person viable, right? And
Sure.
we are viable if we say we are, if we can actually raise the money to get our message and to build our momentum. And so just wanted to share that with all of you. And I'm just so grateful for the love and support of this region and across the country too, as well, because I am a daughter of Hmong refugees. We've been in this country for 50 years and we have never had a Hmong person in Congress. We've never. And so I think for my ancestors would be so proud, right?
I think it's beautifully said. Representation matters, and I'm always a person who wants to lead by example. So while I was talking to you on here, contributed to your campaign myself because we need to help you across the finish line. And to the folks watching, y'all need to understand for a first time congressional candidate to come up against a 50-year name recognition incumbent and be within single digits
I
at the
know.
onset is unheard of. It
Yep.
is unheard of. If there was ever a viable candidate, we're looking at her right now. And so whether you can donate $1 or $5 or God love you can max out at 3,500, please do so. Because it's one thing to rightly condemn corporate money in politics and condemn establishment feckless Democrats who are pro genocide and anti healthcare. It's another thing to then put our money where our mouth is and support where we can. And for those of you who are not able to donate, no love lost for you, still love you. How can they support your campaign if they're not in a position to donate?
Yes, go to myforus.com. We have, if you live in the Sacramento region or in CD7, that's Elk Grove, Lodi Gulf, El Dorado, Placerville, Cameron Park. You can sign up and actually canvas. Now, if you don't live in this region, obviously you can donate, but you can also sign up to phone bank. You can phone bank anywhere from where you're at. So this is a grassroots campaign. You can also call if you're like in New York or Texas or North Carolina, Minnesota, wherever you at. You can also help us by doing phone banks too, and we're doing phone banks as well.
Somebody left a really thoughtful comment. My love from St. Paul, where we just elected our first Hmong mayor as
Yeah.
well. So we need to get you all connected and get that
Yes.
synergy going.
Yes. And shout out to Gally Her. Yes, she's been texting me as well. The
Amazing,
first Hmong mayor.
amazing. I love it. I love it.
I'm coming to Minnesota, y'all, like in May, I think. I think it's on the schedule to go to Minnesota. I'm also
Amazing.
coming to North Carolina on April 8th, 9th, and 10th. NIDA alum that was running for Congress, she is
Yep.
hosting a meet and greet as well,
Amazing.
North Carolina and Durham. So if you're in the North Carolina area, I'm about to go out there because I got aunties out there. They're going to host like a Hmong house party with Hmong food. So if you're in North Carolina, go to myforus.com/NC and you can RSVP and come over to my auntie's house. We're going to cook some good Hmong food and come get to know the Hmong community.
We're in the comments. Folks are sharing that they're already donating, so we're getting some good momentum going. A closing message. What is the closing message? What do you want folks to be left with? And I'll add a caveat to that as well. The world is in a really crappy place right now. So, in addition to talking about what your parting message is for this conversation, how are you maintaining hope? How are you maintaining your sanity and your strength in these difficult times?
Yeah, I am maintaining hope because I see how many people are tapping into this campaign. And something I will share with all of you, I know that every day we are like doom scrolling. There's like another shitstorm every single day. But what I will share with all of you is that the future is not predetermined. It is shaped by those who are willing to reimagine what the future looks like and those who are willing to fight for it. And y'all are showing up here today, 340 of y'all. You're sitting here watching this because you are tapped in and you want to basically hold the line and do everything you can to change this future. And so it is not predetermined. It is shaped by all of you. And so that is what gives me hope. This campaign gives me hope. Cassine, you give me hope because you are also on the front line using your platform to educate, to mobilize, to organize. And so thank you for the work that you do. And for everyone that's on here, all 341 plus of y'all, thank you for also just holding the line in your own ways, in your families, in your neighborhoods, loving on and taking care of each other. That is what inspires me. And we got this. We really got this. We are going to be the ones to shape the future. It is up to us just to show up and to fight back.
Mai Vang, daughter of survivors of genocide, running for Congress while our government funds genocide and running in part, major part, to end that genocide. Check her out.
Go to myforus.com. I'm gonna put it in the live chat. Y'all can go to myforus.com and you can go there to donate. Again, we have a big reporting deadline tonight, midnight. We want to be able to show some strong numbers. We're about like, I believe we're about like 5K away from $500,000. So, every dollar goes a long way. And Kasim, thank you so much. Like, thank you for inviting me. Thank you for having me on. I'm so grateful for the opportunity and just to meet more people. And thank you to everyone who's fighting back,
Platform here at any time. Let's definitely have you back on here before the primary, which is on June 2nd.
Yep.
If I'm not mistaken, myforus.com. Thank you again, Mai. Y'all, thanks for tuning in to Let's Address This with Qasim Rashid. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. We're going to have more amazing people funded candidates on here in the coming weeks. And the only way we win this is together. Hit that subscribe button so we can continue to protect your human rights and our democracy. Peace out.
Thank you.